The UK government is set to narrow the width of their roads across the country for the safety of cyclists. Now, Mail on Sunday report that according to official guidance quietly published last week, the standard 12-foot width of a road in Britain should shrink to 10 foot 8 inches so that cars don't have enough space to try and overtake cyclists, therefore causing fewer accidents. They say this should also allow for cyclists to ride more centrally in the road. However, in some cases, they also say that it could be expanded to at least 12 foot 10 inches, giving more room to overtake. For perspective, 12 foot has been the standard width of road in Britain for nearly 150 years. Now, Mail on Sunday say that the guidance will be applied to billions of pounds of future road building schemes, and local authorities which defy the recommendations could see reduced transport funding. The Standard report that ATE guidance is not legally binding, however, councils are expected to follow it. So the question is this a good idea or not?
She was 15, somebody cut her arms off and then threw her off a cliff after assaulting her, but she survived miraculously. At age 15 in 1978, she was hitchhiking, somebody picked her up and then attacked her and assaulted her. The man who abducted her was a 50-year-old man named Lawrence Singleton. He knocked her out with a sledgehammer, tied her up, and assaulted her multiple times. He then used a hatchet to sever both of her forearms and threw her off a 30-foot cliff into a ditch. The only reason she survived and didn't bleed out was because she was crawling up with what was left of her arms and kind of like clotting the blood or slowing the bleeding with the mud and dirt. She had to walk 3 miles to the sound of a highway with her arms up in the air because if she put them down, she would have bled out to death. Now, eventually, a couple saw her on the side of the road and rushed her to the hospital. She testified against him. She gave a very detailed sketch after she healed up and everything. When she testified against him, he served the maximum penalty of 14 years. This was not Singleton's first crime. He did something similar to a woman in Florida, and she testified during that case as well. He ended up being sentenced to life in prison, but he died in 2001. Mary Vincent ended up being a very strong advocate for, abuse victims and stuff. She wanted to become an artist and designed her own prosthetic limbs that you guys see behind me.
2025 just got even crazier, part 59. So just this month, an elderly man in France put into his GPS the doctor's office and started driving to the doctor's office, which was just 12 miles away. No big deal, right? Well, the man literally drove forever because he drove all the way through Italy and then drove to Croatia, traveling 1,000 miles, and it drove for nearly 20 hours. And you're probably asking why. Well, when authorities found him, the 85-year-old man blamed it all on his GPS, and apparently prior he's had no cognitive issues. Next, we could potentially be getting a Labubu movie. And yes, I'm being so serious. And the reason why I'm saying this is because news just broke that Sony reportedly acquired the screen rights for the doll. Do you guys remember how much chaos the Minecraft movie caused? Now, imagine when a Labubu movie comes out.
There is so much history that we were not taught in school. The US military opened fire on the planet Venus in 1945 after mistaking it for a Japanese balloon bomb. There is an unproven working theory that the years 614 to 911 never actually existed. It's the idea that an emperor faked 300 years of time to legitimize his claim over the entire Holy Roman Empire. If 300 years of the Middle Ages never existed, we'd be living in the year 1725, not 2025. Most people in ancient Roman cities didn't even have their own kitchens. They would just share a communal kitchen or just buy straight from street vendors every day. Immediately after JFK was assassinated, an order was given to destroy all personal logs linked to the use of the presidential yacht USS Sequoia during his administration. The owner of the World Trade Center in court claimed that 9/11 was two separate attacks, and they partially agreed, so 9 out of the 20 insurers involved had to pay double. Walt Disney's final words were Kurt Russell. Boston Corbett, who is the man who assassinated John Wilkes Booth, was declared mentally insane and institutionalized in Kansas in 1887 until he escaped a year later and disappeared forever.
The documentary Death in Apartment 603 is about one of the strangest cases ever, so let's explain it. Ellen Greenberg was a 27-year-old schoolteacher from Philadelphia, and on January 26, 2011, she was found dead in her apartment, the scene immediately raising more questions than answers. Her fiancé, Sam Goldberg, said he returned home to find the door locked from the inside. After forcing it open, he discovered Ellen's body slumped against the kitchen cabinets. She had suffered 20 stab wounds, 10 to the back of her neck and head, and 10 to her chest and abdomen. A knife was still lodged in her chest. At first glance, the scene looked brutal, yet investigators quickly ruled it a suicide. Their reasoning? The door was locked from the inside and there were no signs of struggle. But Ellen's parents and many forensic experts have fought that conclusion ever since. Multiple wounds were in places impossible to self-inflict, and she also had defensive bruising on her arms, which were consistent with a struggle. Toxicology showed anti-anxiety medication in her system, but nothing would explain such violent self-harm. Her death has since become the center of a massive public debate. Numerous medical examiners have called for her case to be reopened, arguing that the physical evidence contradicts suicide. Even today, over a decade later, Ellen Greenberg's death remains officially listed as a suicide, despite overwhelming suspicion that she was actually murdered. If this case sounds interesting to you, go watch Death in Apartment 603 now.
It's only been 2 days since Apple released their iPhone Pocket, and it's already becoming the most controversial product of the year. Now, Apple's Pocket announcement was met with huge trolling online, especially since what's essentially a sock was priced at $150 for the short version and $230 for the long one.
If you spend a penny on the iPhone Pocket...
But, it was limited edition. It was also reminiscent of, 20 years ago, Apple releasing the iPod Sock. But that was $29 for a 6-pack. So many people started making videos online saying that this was the worst product Apple has ever dropped.
No one should be buying a literal sock. If you walk anywhere near me wearing an iPhone Pocket, I'm gonna do something to your pocket.
And if people actually spent that much money on a piece of cloth, we were past the point of no return. Especially considering the current cost of living crisis everyone's always complaining about. But when they were released on Friday, they sold out. Almost immediately. So, for the people who did cop, maybe just wait a couple of days for things to cool down before wearing them in public.
I'm gonna do something to your pocket.
In episode 4 of Welcome to Derry, we are going to see the full origin story of Pennywise. When and where he came from. Actually see him land on Earth, and the interaction that the native people had when he first landed here. In the teaser trailer for this week's episode, we see Dick Halloran using the shine, where he's inside of someone's head. That someone is Taniel, assuming to be Rose's nephew, which if you're unaware is the same little girl that helped young Colonel Shaw escape it when it was a skinwalker. We'll be going into grave detail of saying that it can't leave the woods, and everyone who lived in the surrounding area knew exactly what it was. And we've seen this device before, similar to the same device we saw in It Chapter 2. Obviously, Welcome to Derry is a prequel. They're going to use this to track down Pennywise. I also think that one of our main characters is going to go face to face with Pennywise in this episode, and that character is none other than Will. In the teaser for this week's episode, we'll see something in the water that drags him down, then see Leroy grab him and pretty much make sure that he's alright. But we see one singular balloon. Now we all know who that is. Now look, between me and you, I am super excited for this episode because I need to see more and I want to actually see Pennywise. I don't want to see a picture. I want to see him land on Earth and start going crazy. That's what I want to see. Don't forget to like and follow for more.
So the whole internet is arguing on whether or not that is actually the most intelligent creature on Earth. And honestly, there's a good chance. Meet the orangutan. First off, obviously they could use tools. They could solve puzzles. They could even teach other orangutans how to use tools and solve puzzles. They were even taught how to drive. And if I'm being honest, they're probably a better driver than most drivers I know. On top of that, they've been known to build their own utensils, like umbrellas and spears, which apparently they use for fishing. Even though I'm not sure how I feel about orangutans walking around with spears. But the craziest show of intelligence is their use of medicine. They've been documented using medicinal plants to heal wounds. But not only that, they've created potions that are believed to heal muscles and joints. And all natural painkillers. That is Dr. Orangutan to you. Moral of the story, the most intelligent creature in the world will always be up for debate. But those guys are definitely in the conversation. And as always, follow for more facts.
So I came across 2 paranormal photos and I'm going to compare them side by side right behind me. I kind of want to see how many people can spot the difference because these photos were taken seconds apart and I'll prove it to you. For context on the one that you're actually looking at, this was taken inside of a child care center and the person who did post this, they had permission to share this photo and from all of the parents who were involved in this picture because nobody can explain it. Now compared to this picture, this is the second photo. Does something look different, particularly in the center of this picture? I'm gonna zoom in for you. As a quick aside, consider following and sticking around because I post videos almost every single day. Okay, so we're back in. So focus on these two girls right here. Again, this is picture 1. I'm gonna swap over to photo 2. The woman who took this photo and everyone in that care center that she showed it to could not come up with an explanation for this. I'm telling you, you can go back, you can compare these photos yourself side by side. There are very minimal movements, which effectively shows that this was taken only a few seconds later. But who is that? Every other child and person who was in the room was accounted for, so there is no explanation for who seems to be standing behind this girl.
The 3 most dangerous dog breeds you should never own. Number 3, the Pit Bull. The Pit Bull is regarded as one of the most dangerous dogs in the world. For instance, in the USA, 203 Americans were killed by a pit bull between 2005 and 2014, and 305 individuals suffered severe injuries following an attack. Number 2, the German Shepherd. Originating from Germany, the German Shepherd can weigh between 66 and 99 pounds. They are known for being intelligent, confident, alert, but can also be aggressive. These dogs are commonly used by many police departments. Number 1. Oh yes, before we continue, support me by subscribing and liking my video. The Rottweiler. The Rottweiler is a very robust dog, weighing up to 132 pounds, and most of its weight is pure muscle. These dogs are seen as very dangerous because they have a genetic predisposition for guarding and herd protection. And don't forget to subscribe and comment your favorite dog breeds in the comments.
This girl was found cut in half and drained of blood. The movie Black Dahlia follows one of America's most disturbing mysteries, so let's explain it. In January 1947, Los Angeles was gripped by one of the most disturbing crimes in its history. 22-year-old Elizabeth Short, later sensationalized by the press as the Black Dahlia, had come to Hollywood searching for opportunity, but instead became the center of a nightmare. On the morning of January 15th, a woman walking with her baby noticed what she thought was a discarded mannequin in a vacant lot. As she got closer, the horrifying truth became clear. It was Elizabeth's body. She had been severed completely in half at the waist, drained of blood, and meticulously cleaned. Her killer had posed her body with disturbing precision, her arms stretched above her head, and her face mutilated with a grotesque smile carved from ear to ear. Detectives quickly realized there was no blood at the scene, meaning Elizabeth had been murdered elsewhere and then transported to the lot. The brutality of the crime stunned even seasoned investigators. Soon, newspapers turned the case into a national obsession. Hoax letters, false confessions, and sensational headlines drowned the investigation, while dozens of suspects from acquaintances to surgeons were questioned. More than 70 years later, the murder of Elizabeth Short remains officially unsolved. If this case sounds interesting to you, go watch the movie The Black Dahlia now.
Let me tell you about some history that we were not taught in school. The first journalist to report the outbreak of World War II was a rookie British reporter who was on her first week of the job. She just happened to be traveling across the German-Polish border when she spotted thousands of troops, tanks, artillery going in for the invasion. Even crazier, when she phoned in her report to the embassy officials, they didn't believe her, so she held her phone out her window to give them the sound of the German troops marching. Despite Antarctica for not being discovered for forever, the first 2 claims of its discovery were within the same 3 days. Einstein's famous tongue-out photo was taken on his 72nd birthday after a long day of posing for photographers. He was tired of posing, so he wanted to stick out his tongue instead and purposefully ruin the photo. Well, that backfired. Actress and Playboy playmate Jane Mayfield's father passed away of a heart attack while she was 3 years old inside of his car. And then her daughter was 3 years old and inside of the car when she passed away in a car accident. One of the most prominent methods of combating the Great Fire of London was to just blow up buildings so that it would isolate the fire in certain areas.
And sing this little song. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run.
Top 3 worst things in nature. Number 3. The Brazilian wandering spider, also known as the banana spider, is considered the world's most venomous spider. Its venom contains a potent neurotoxin that can cause intense pain, paralysis, and even death. In addition to its feared bite, This spider is also known for its aggressive behavior and its ability to travel long distances. Number 2. The candiru is a species of catfish from South America, often referred to as the vampire fish. It is dreaded for its strange and dangerous habit of entering swimmers' orifices, notably the urethra, thus causing intense pain and often requiring surgical intervention to be removed. Although incidents are rare, just thinking about this creature can deter people from swimming in waters where the candiru is known to live. Number 1. Oh yes, before we continue, support me by subscribing and liking my video. Botulinum toxin is a neurotoxin produced by the Clostridium botulinum bacterium. It's one of the most toxic substances known, capable of causing botulism, a paralyzing and potentially deadly disease. Despite its danger, this toxin is used in small quantities in medicine and aesthetics, notably for Botox injections. However, accidental or poorly managed exposure to this toxin can have catastrophic consequences. In conclusion, well done to Cabrini for correctly answering yesterday's quiz. And today's quiz is as follows. What is the smallest country in the world?
Yep, that bird just wiped out the whole nest. And that's not even the worst part. Meet the cuckoo. Like most birds, they lay their eggs in a nest. The only difference is they don't lay their eggs in their own nest. Nope. They lay their eggs in other birds' nests. And they usually pick a bird whose eggs look a lot like theirs. That way it blends in. It's kind of genius. And then they just skedaddle and have that other bird feed and raise their baby. This is known as parasitic nesting. But it gets a lot worse than that. You see, when it's time for the cuckoo to lay its egg, instead, it'll wait 24 hours and keep it on the inside. This ensures that the cuckoo egg will hatch before any other egg. And when a cuckoo is born, they come stocked with the natural instinct to push all the other eggs out of the nest. It comes right out of the egg as the villain. That's impressive. And even if the other eggs do hatch, they'll push the chicks out. They take over the whole nest. That way, they get all the food, they grow up big and strong, so they can go and do it to another bird. Talk about a vicious cycle. And as always, follow for more facts.
Let's talk about the lore behind one of the most strange entities I've ever seen in a horror game. The Glitch. This thing is very weird, so buckle up. The game this is from is called Glitch. I have a full playthrough of it on my channel with every ending. So yeah, spoilers ahead. If you wake up in the middle of the night to see that all of the clocks in your home have stopped working, that is when you know the glitch is here. And this thing is beyond strange. It can take the form of many different things. In fact, it almost seems to exist outside of the realm of reality. It can basically kill you in any way that it wants, and you can't just destroy the clocks either because it opens up like a void of death. Most of the time it takes the form of a pale figure, but what is it really? Finding every single death scene in the game reveals the true secret ending and what is actually going on. In reality, the glitch is actually a fungus. A bunch of small meteors from outer space carry this fungus to Earth. The spores spread everywhere and basically put the host into a state of hibernation. During this hibernation, the host would have a bunch of nightmarish dreams. And once they found a cure, all of the survivors complained about a white, pale figure. The lore is actually based on the developer's own personal battles with depression and anxiety, and all the different forms this can take, represented by all of the strange deaths in the game.
Why does Pennywise never leave Derry? Derry isn't just a town to Pennywise. It's an endless source of food and his lair. It crash landed in Derry years before it ever became Derry, Maine. It's also said to be the closest place to his natural form, the Deadlights, at least in our world. So if he were to step away from Derry, his power source would more or less drop off. Derry, Maine has also been set up as a massive spiderweb networking system for him. Think about it. He has the underground sewers where he's able to have people floating. No one else goes down there. He's also able to mask all of his unalivings with all of the past trauma that's happened in Derry. Because after one 27-year cycle, it seems like people forget. They forget everything. They forget the Bradley gang. They forget all of the people who are missing and just continuously move on. So in a place that's full of trauma and fear, why would he ever leave when that's literally what he feeds on? He's also safe to go throughout all of his cycles, every 27 years. Eat and sleep. Why would he ever leave? And yes, we have to talk about the cosmic balance with Maturin, because yes, Maturin rules, at least in theory. But it seems like if Pennywise does leave Derry, he may draw unneeded attention to himself. And as we've seen, Derry seems to be the safest place ever. People know he exists, yet do nothing about it. And trust me, when we see the US military go up against Pennywise at some capacity in Welcome to Derry, things are not going to go their way. We are talking about a cosmic demonic entity, something that can shapeshift into your biggest fears, or trap you in a loop of your worst nightmares. I think they're cooked. Don't forget to like and follow for more.
When I tell you this story, I need you to remember that the police searched this couple's apartment 3 times and said they didn't find anything suspicious. But what they found on the 4th time made me absolutely sick to my stomach. So back in 2017, Brooke Cruz went to her pregnant neighbor's apartment and said she would give her $20 if she would model a dress that she was sewing. That neighbor was 22-year-old Savanna Greywind, who was an 8-month pregnant Indigenous woman. Now, after Savanna went to Brooke's apartment, she vanished. She never came back down. Savanna's family knew that Brooke and her boyfriend Will, who lived with her, hated Indigenous people. And also that they were probably the last people to see Savanna, so they called the police begging them to check out the apartment of these two. And so begrudgingly, the police did. They went to that apartment 3 times, and they said that they did a thorough search, but that they didn't find anything suspicious, so Savanna probably ran away. But Savanna's family was like, we know something happened, just go one more time, we're begging you. And that time when they went into the apartment, the police found a newborn brown baby on the couple's bed, and Savanna was nowhere to be found. We just did a full breakdown on this case over on the Clues podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, but it turns out Brooke had been lying to William for months about being pregnant. She had even shown him fake ultrasound photos and sent him fake heartbeats. And this seems like it was maybe a last-ditch effort to prove to him that she was pregnant that whole time and not just lying to him. So after reading through all the facts of the case, I definitely think he knew way more than he let on. It's a really important listen, but it's a really hard listen, and you can check out our episode over on the Clues podcast.
3 animals driven to extinction by humans will likely never know. Number 3. The great auk was once a common bird in the North Atlantic, ranging from northern Europe to the eastern coast of North America. Unlike modern penguins, the great auk was capable of flight, albeit clumsily. Because of its tasty meat and eggs, it was heavily hunted by humans until its extinction in the 19th century. The last known pair was killed in 1844 on Eldey Island in Iceland. Number 2. The thylacine, also known as the Tasmanian wolf or Tasmanian tiger, was a carnivorous marsupial native to Tasmania, mainland Australia, and New Guinea. Looking like a large dog with distinct stripes, it was hunted to extinction by farmers who believed it preyed on their sheep. The last known thylacine died in captivity at the Hobart Zoo, Tasmania, in 1936. Number 1. Oh yes, before we continue, support me by subscribing and liking my video. The Mexican grizzly, once a resident of the mountains in northern Mexico and the southwestern United States, was one of the northernmost subspecies of the brown bear. Due to intensive hunting and loss of its habitat because of farming and ranching, the Mexican grizzly saw its population quickly decline. Although the last confirmed Mexican grizzly was killed in 1960, this subspecies was officially declared extinct in 1964.
Human body parts that will disappear in the future. At number 1, we have body hair. Originally, humans developed body hair to protect them from harsh weather conditions. However, over time, with modern clothes and changes in environmental conditions, human body hair has significantly decreased and continues to do so. Many scientists believe it will completely disappear in about 10,000 years. Next are wisdom teeth. Wisdom teeth used to serve an evolutionary purpose for ancient humans who had much rougher diets and needed more chewing power. But our diets have softened, and our jaws have also become increasingly smaller. As a result, wisdom teeth have no space to properly grow in, and many people have had them surgically removed. Many babies are now being born without wisdom teeth, and scientists believe this will eventually become the norm. Finally, male nipples. Everyone starts as a female in the womb, and before the Y chromosome kicks in from males, nipples are already formed. However, the male nipples are more or less non-functional. So while it's debated, some scientists think they will eventually disappear. For more,
and sing this little song. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit. Run, run, run. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit. Run, run, run.
She was promised candy, but then was dumped in a landfill. 3-year-old Camille McKini was from Birmingham, Alabama, and while her mother was pregnant with her, she referred to her as her little cupcake girl, so she would often go by the name Cupcake. When she was born, she had these beautiful big brown eyes, full cheeks, contagious smile. She was always wearing colorful clips and bows, and although she was tiny, she was very mighty. On October 12th of 2019, April, who was Cupcake's mother, went to her cousin's house, and she also brought Cupcake along with her so she could play with her cousin, who was super close in her age. April and her cousin got lost in conversation while the sun was setting and the children were still outside playing. Cupcake's older brother was also at this cousin's house, and when he went inside, April told him to go get Cupcake so that they could head home. As April was trying to wrap up her conversation with her cousin, Cupcake's older brother came in through the door screaming that Cupcake was gone. Police arrived to the apartment complex that Cupcake was last seen at, and they had an important witness, an 11-year-old boy who was also playing outside. The boy claimed he saw a blue SUV pull up. They convinced the toddlers to go towards the car, which was Cupcake and her cousin, with the promise of candy, but they ended up snatching Cupcake and driving away. Luckily, there was surveillance cameras in the area, so they were able to get a photo of the car and put it all over the news. Just 2 days after Cupcake's kidnapping, a viewer submitted an anonymous tip to the police about the whereabouts of that blue SUV. They were able to locate the vehicle, and it took them to an apartment complex, and that's when they found out that it belonged to Patrick Stallworth and his girlfriend Derek Brown, but there wasn't enough evidence that they were actually responsible for this. As a result, police ended up arresting Patrick because they found inappropriate photos of children on his phone, and Derek was placed in handcuffs because she had brought her 3 children to this apartment complex without permission, and it was met as a kidnapping charge. On October 21st of 2019, the girlfriend Derek ended up talking to police and told them that Cupcake's body could be found in a landfill nearby. Searchers were looking for hours, and eventually someone found a doll-like figure, and it ended up being 3-year-old Camille Cupcake McKini. Cupcake's autopsy revealed she was given substances and forced to perform sexual acts on Patrick. Patrick and Derek pled not guilty, but all the jurors knew that they were guilty, and they were sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. Each year on Cupcake's birthday, her family members and members of the community all get together to celebrate her short life.
Which of these facts is the hardest to believe? People who like the smell of petrol and nail polish have a very high tendency to do drugs. If your friendship lasts for more than 6 years, psychologists say it will last a lifetime. About 70% of people don't like to hear their own voice when they send a voice message. Dreams normally vanish when you wake up, but if you remember your dream after waking up, then it wasn't a dream, it was a message. Also, you have never used your phone in any of your dreams. In 2025, when Kim Jong-un visited China, his staff carefully wiped down everything he touched to remove traces of his DNA. Astronauts have reportedly said that the smell of moon dust is similar to that of gunpowder. Survivors of bear attacks report hearing the bear's teeth scratching against their skulls. Sophomore?
Deepak Chopra is in the Epstein files. Let's talk about it. So this is one of the emails that was recently released by the House Oversight Committee. And as you can see, in 2017, Deepak Chopra and Jeffrey Epstein were emailing each other. Disturbingly, you can see that Deepak actually wrote Epstein on Monday, March 6, 2017 at 1:19 a.m. Meeting today will let you know last night was a blast, ended 1 a.m. So I don't know what the hell he was doing with Epstein until 1 a.m. But as you can see later in that day at around 7:44 a.m., Epstein wrote back and said, "I'm glad," seemingly happy that Deepak had a great time with Epstein the night before. And that's not the only email chain that was released. Here's another interesting thread where Epstein once again is talking with Deepak, but this time he messages Epstein and says, "I will take you up on your offers visiting one of your places." We can assume that might mean the island or something like that. And he also asks if he knows Marla Maples, a woman obviously tied closely to Donald Trump. And up there, Epstein actually says, "In fact, when she told Donald she was pregnant, I lost a $10,000 bet with him and sent him a truck of baby food in payment. She can tell you the story of her friend who was caught having sex with her shoes. Yes, shoes." So clearly this thing goes incredibly deep, and this is just the very tip of the iceberg, but I'm going to keep you guys updated because this stuff is just shocking no matter how you look at it. And if you want to join me on my journey to expose these creeps, you can check out my channel. I have done a number of extremely long deep dives on this subject, the Epstein saga, or you can listen to the podcast on all streaming platforms like Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
Her life was taken by someone she met on Instagram, and he leaked her photos online for the entire world to see. 17-year-old Bianca Devins was born on October 2nd of 2001 and was from Utica, New York. She spent a lot of her time online because she suffered with anxiety, depression, PTSD, and borderline personality disorder. Social media, especially Instagram and Discord, became her escape. She could talk to people who understood her, and she was a part of a supportive community. That's where she met 21-year-old Brandon Clark, and she never wanted a relationship with him. She just saw him as a friend. For Brandon, it was the complete opposite. He saw something in her that he thought he deserved, he felt entitled, and he became obsessed with her. On July 13th of 2019, Bianca and Brandon went to a concert in New York City with their friends. Bianca was having fun, meeting new people, kissed a guy that night at the concert, and Brandon was fixated on this the whole night. Once the concert had ended, Brandon had plans to give Bianca a ride back home, and during the drive, Brandon was becoming more angry and jealous, and Bianca had no idea how dangerous he was. She eventually fell asleep in the passenger seat while Brandon was supposed to bring her back to Utica. Instead of taking her home, he drove her to a dead-end road on Post Street. That's when Brandon began assaulting her and sliced her neck. Brandon then took photos of Bianca's body and started posting them online. On Discord, he wrote a caption mocking her friends, saying, "Sorry, you're gonna have to find someone else to orbit." He then uploaded the photos to Instagram, and those photos spread online to Facebook, Twitter, and 4chan. While many users who saw the photos reported it immediately, there were some users who were praising Brandon for what he did. Unfortunately, Bianca's family had to see strangers reposting her final moments online. Friends online recognized Bianca immediately, and at first they thought it was a sick joke, but then they realized it was real when they saw her pink hair and her clothes. They called police, and Brandon was sitting next to Bianca's body trying to end his own life, but before he could do that, they took him into custody. On July 29th of 2019, Brandon pled not guilty, but ended up changing his plea to guilty on February 10th of 2020 and was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. Sadly, the aftermath made everything worse. For days, photos of Bianca continued to circulate online, and even though her family begged platforms to take them off, there was still continuous re-uploads. Bianca's family pushed for a new law, and in 2022, New York passed Bianca's Law, which makes it a crime to share a victim's photo with the intent to degrade them or abuse them.